عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. You know, I'm amazed. Sheikh Mufti, you have no idea. You asked me before you spoke what you're going to talk about. I didn't want to say what I was going to talk about. But the irony, you must have been in my head, because what you talked about is exactly what I wanted to talk about. I want to first begin with an opinion. And I think opinions are important. The Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, was in Medina, and the people were manipulating the date palms. And he said, what are you doing? He said, we get more fruit when we do this. And the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, said, maybe it's better you don't do it. So they stopped doing it. And the crops failed. Ya Rasulullah. And this is what the Prophet said, peace and blessing be upon him, which every leader, every president, every king, every prime minister, every leader ought to know what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, Innama ana bashar. I am only a human being. إذا أمرتكم بشيء من دينكم فخذوا بها. When I order you to do something from your deen, from your religion, take it. وإذا أمرتكم بشيء من رأيي فإنما أنا بشر. And when I give you my opinion, I'm only a human being. What that mean? It means that who you think you are, you the prime minister, you the president, you the king, it's just an opinion. So what I'm going to give you right now is my opinion. Maybe you differ with it. I am so impressed with the Islamic Educational Center. I think that this masjid is a model for the Muslims in America. Wallahi. Imam Muhammad Shinawi, Imam, you can't even imagine how much I love you. Really. If the people weren't looking right now, I'd come kiss you right now. It's true. It's true. Who are we? When I was in the 3rd grade, about 8 years old, I learned a song that I never forgot. Would you like for me to sing it for you now? It's not going to happen. But the song went something like this. Getting to know you. Getting to know all about you. Someone once said that the most important knowledge you can have is the knowledge of yourself. I do agree that the knowledge of self is important. But the most important knowledge you will ever have is the knowledge of Allah. That's where it begins. And once you know Allah, then that is the key to the success of life. That's why this community center will be successful, inshallah. I have it, honestly. You want to see one day so many people here, you can't accommodate them. They will come, and I'll tell you why. It has to do with love. I was blessed in 1978 to go to Korea University, where I studied from 3 teachers that had a great impact in my life. Muhammad Qutb, the brother of Sayyid Qutb, he taught us da'wah. Sheikh Jafar Idris from Sudan, he taught us aqidah. And my favorite teacher, Sheikh Hussein Hassan Hamid from Egypt, he taught us fiqh. He taught us Islamic law. Every question we asked him, this was his typical response. He said, we have three opinions. Imam Shafi'i has this opinion about what you're saying, and this is the evidence that he used. Imam Malik had a different opinion, and this is the evidence that he used. Imam Malik had a different opinion, and this is the evidence that he used, and he said, I think that this is the right answer. This is scholarship. You have to understand how wide and flexible our religion is. It isn't, rigid. It's very flexible. If I say to you, Kayfa halukum, what does that mean? Kayfa halukum means what? How are you? How are you doing? That's not incorrect. This is what everybody said. Kayfa halukum, how you doing? But it don't really mean that. The word in Arabic, hal, means condition, circumstance. So when you say to a person, Kayfa halukum, what's your circumstances like? فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيدًا عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. Whoever's sick or on a journey couldn't make it up. It's a circumstances. And people around the world, they have different circumstances. People in America, different cities, they have different circumstances. One of my friends, Imam Talib Abdul Rashid, the Imam in Masjid Islamic Brotherhood in Harlem, said, Imam, once I was invited by an immigrant Muslim community to come to an organization, to come to the organizing meeting in Washington, D.C., and I went. And this is what they did. They went to the board and listed for their organization priorities. Priority number 1, the most important, and 2 and 3 until 10. And they said, Imam Talib, what do you think about this list? He said, it's interesting. Imam Talib, African American, immigrant community. He said, what's interesting, what you have as priority number 1 in your community is priority number 10 in my community. And what you have as priority number 10 in your community is priority number 1 in my community. What does that mean? That means that the leader must understand who's in the community. Who's in this ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of which we're here today? Who's in the ummah? It's wide, it's big, it's huge. Imam, my masjid now, we have about 38, 39 different ethnicities. But Masjid al-Taqwa started 40 years ago, was 100% African Americans. Had about 25 members. Pre-pandemic, we had an average of 1,300 people for Jummah. And now the African Americans in my masjid are the minority. Maybe 20, 25% max. And therefore, the leader have to know who's in the ummah. Let me give an example. The Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, gave a hint. He's teaching us how to be leaders. إِذَا صَلَى أَحَدُكُمْ لِلنَّاسِ فَيَخَفِّفْ. Whenever you lead the people in prayer, make it short. Lighten it. فَإِنَّ فِيهِمْ الدَّعِيفَةِ وَسَقِيمَةِ وَكَبِيرَةِ. Because among them are the da'if and the weak, and the sick, and the elderly. You have old people in your masjid, in our masjid. We have some masjids. I know a masjid in Detroit. I've been there. I've given talks there, and the brother told me, Imam, the average age of the people in that masjid, 80 years old. Where the youth? There's no youth in that masjid. You go around the country and you go from masjid to masjid, and you will find there are more chairs in the masjid than there ever been before. There are some masjids you don't see the youth at all. Not here. This place, inshallah, will never be devoid of the youth, because you have leadership that understands. And if you have youth, then you have to understand how to talk to them. You don't talk to the youth the same way you talk to the adults. And you have to learn how to communicate with them. So leader has to be like that. How we deal with each other. Allah mentioned Quran, خلق الله وما تعلمون. خلق الله خلق لكم وما تعملون. Allah created you and what you make. Think about it. There was nothing, and Allah created everything. All the things that you have, the modern conveniences, you think you made it? Yeah, okay, yeah, you made it. Allah gave you the ability to make it. From Allah. Let me give you an example. How many of you drive a car? Raise your hand. You drive a car? How old are you? 17? MashaAllah. You drive a car too? He said no. So listen, you get in a car. Imam, I'm gonna actually, I'm put you on the spot, Imam. I'm sorry. You're gonna beat me up after this. Imam, have you ever speed? A little bit. This is why I love him. If you want to know how fast you're going, there's a gadget in your car to measure the speed. What is it called? Speedometer. To measure how fast you're going. People want to weigh themselves. They want to know how much do they weigh. What do they use? A scale. Scale will help you to know your weight. People, they measure their blood pressure, their sugar. And we have all of these instruments to measure, to make sure that our health is good. But the most important thing is our faith, our iman. What do you use to measure your iman? And this is what I want to talk about today in just a few minutes. Honestly, I'd be surprised if 2 hours I'm still speaking. You say, wait a minute, what did he just say? How do you measure your faith? How important is? He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, لَتَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ حَتَّى تُؤْمِنُوا. You will not go to Jannah until you believe. Any religious leader, pope, bishop, cardinal, minister, rabbi, imam, who doesn't teach life after death is guilty of religious malpractice. How dare you not emphasize life after death? Because the greatest incentive to man is life after death. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. We're gonna die. If there's no life after death, this life is a waste of time. What's the point? Your mother died, your father died, your grandmother died, your grandfather died, your uncle, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your children, your husband, your wife, your leaders, everybody died. That's it? You mean to tell me that's it? We come, we live, we die? That's it? No, there's life after death. And there's two things you better know, Al-Jannah and An-Nar. Both of them you better know. Allah mentioned all throughout Quran. The Prophet, he mentions it all the time. So if that the Prophet is saying, peace and blessing be upon him, that Allahumma la aisha illa aishul akhirah. There's no life except the life of the hereafter. So we want to go to Jannah. Everybody wants to go to Jannah. Because this life, this can't be it. But how do you measure your iman? For instance, the Prophet said, Al-mu'minu qawiyyu khayrun. Wa habbu ilallah min al-mu'mini da'if wa fi kulli khayr. A strong believer is better and more loved by Allah than a weak believer, but there's good in all of them. So the question is, how do I measure my iman? And then he said, La tadkhulu jannah hatta tu'minu. And this is the key. This is my point I'm going to make. Wa la tu'minu hatta tahabbu. And you will never believe until you love one another. How important is love? Critical. Allah mentioned Quran, "I'lamu anna Allah shadidul iqab wa anna Allah ghafurur rahim." You better know this. What he's gonna say, you better know it. You write it down, you get what Allah said. Know for a fact that Allah is strong in punishment. You better know that. People think they know Allah. You don't know Allah until you read Quran, you read the Sunnah. You better know about Allah. Don't show one side of Allah. Don't just show the mercy. You better show that He's strong in punishment on one hand and that He's forgiving and merciful on the other hand. Let me give you an example. People talk about the punishment in the hellfire. Let's take a step before that. Yawm al-Qiyamah. Yawm al-Qiyamah. Standing up. Have you ever been on a line somewhere waiting to get gas, waiting to get on a plane? People get so tired, oh man. Right? But how about Yawm al-Qiyamah? People standing, ain't in no hotel. You're standing in the hot sun. What you waiting for? Waiting to be judged by Allah. Hot, sweat. How long are you standing? 50,000 years. That's unimaginable. This ain't hell. This is before. Standing, waiting to be judged, and it's so monotonous, so horrible. You say, okay, bring it on. Let me go to hell. Then Allah says, the Prophet said, that Allah said, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Ana mutahabuna bijalali. Where are those who love one another for my sake, my glory? This day, I will have them in my shade when there's a day no shade except my shade. That's it. Love one another, yeah. Why you love him? What kind of relationship do you have? Nothing except he's my brother. I love him. That's my sister. I love her. We love each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's many hadith that talks about that love. Now I'm going to conclude. Imam, anyone who knows me, that I usually have 5 or 6 conclusions. This is my first one. It's remarkable how important love is. One day Umar radiallahu anh said to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, لَأَنْتَ حَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا نَفْسِي. You are more beloved to me than anyone except myself. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم لا والله والذي نفسي بيدي حتى أكون أحب إلي من نفسي. No, Umar, you don't have real faith unless I am more beloved to you than yourself. Umar said, Al-an ya Rasulullah, anta habu ilayya min nafsi. Now you're more beloved than myself. And the Prophet said, Al-an ya Umar, you got it now. Love. Tina Turner, Imam, you probably never heard of Tina Turner. I know the Mufti never heard of Tina Turner. I know you haven't. You don't have to say it, I know. I haven't heard of Tina Turner. MashaAllah. Really? Did you know your community knew that? She said, what's love have to do with it? I like to answer her that. Everything. Love have everything. You think it's little, it's big. David Koch, former mayor of New York City, he had a famous saying. He would go to people and say, how am I doing as the mayor? We know, we had a relationship, a television program together. He said, Imam Siraj, how am I doing? We should ask ourselves the question, how am I doing with my iman, my faith? How am I doing? Why? It's critical. Let me give you an example. The Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, said, the The best of your leaders are those whom you love, and they love you. You pray for them, and they pray for you. And the worst of your leaders are those whom you hate. They hate you, and you hate them. How's your love? Do we love one each other for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So let me finish with this. Who's in the ummah? The weak, the elderly. A sister in our community, Khalil, remember, you know Sister Rashida, married to Abdul Rahman? Sister Rashida was in our community many years, and she moved to Toronto, not to city, New Jersey. Trenton, thank you, Trenton, New Jersey, right? So one day she called me, said, Imam Siraj, I got some good news for you. I said, oh, Rashida, you got married? She said, no, Imam, but my mother took Shahada. 94 years old. Rashida said to me, Imam, 94 years of sin, Allah wiped it away. She died after 7 months. I went, did the janazah for her. She's in the ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. As small a time as she was there, it reminds me of a man who came to the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. He said, Uqatilu a uslimu. Should I fight or should I take shahada? Aslim thumma qatil. Become Muslim first, then fight. He did. He fought, he died. And the Prophet said, little deeds but big reward. Here's a man never made salat, didn't make umrah, didn't make hajj, none of that. He became a Muslim, he fought, and he died. He got big reward and this little action. So here we are in this masjid. Who's in the community? Everybody in the community is not the same. You have some people in this community, high level of iman, and then you have people in the community on drugs. What you gonna do when you have somebody in your community on drugs? Imam, astaghfirullah. You see, we don't get it. Go to the ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, a man named Abdullah. They called him Himar, they called him donkey. He had a habit of getting drunk. He's always getting drunk. And the people are, why are you always getting drunk? And then they want to curse him. The Prophet said, don't help shaitan against your brother. He said, because this man loves Allah and his messenger. We got to work with everybody. We got to work with the weak ones and the weak ones and the strong ones. I'm surprised, Imam, I was in England, and how many masjids don't even allow women to come to the masjid. Are you serious? You don't allow women to come? Are you serious? So, alhamdulillah, my message today, one of the greatest gauges of love, of faith, is love. That's who he is, Al-Wadud. And if you think that you love the Prophet more than the Prophet loves you, you're crazy. You don't understand. As much as we love the Prophet, he loves us more. I give you one example. I give you speaking next, Imam. Who I'm gonna give this mic to? I'm give you the mic. Yes? No? Give you the mic? You know, let's fast forward. Before I mention the Prophet, let me say this, and then I mention the Prophet. Every once in a while, when you read the Quran, when you read Hadith, you will see that the people in Jannah will be able to see the people in hellfire. In one example from Quran. مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي السَّقَرِ مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي السَّقَرِ. What are you doing in the hellfire? قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُنْ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. We're not those who used to make salat. We're not those who used to feed the poor. That's why they're in the hellfire. You see, they can communicate. Let me give you one in Hadith. Kitab al-Iman, Muslim Hadith, Book of Faith. The companions are looking in the hellfire, and they recognize some people in the hellfire. Rabbana, ikhwanuna, Allah, our brothers. They used to pray with us. They used to fast with us. They used to make Hajj with us. I'm anticipating what Allah is going to say. Don't know what they did. Who put them in the hellfire? Only Allah can put somebody in the hellfire, true? And then Allah gives this response. Go. أخرجوا منها من عرفتم. Take out of the hellfire those whom you recognize. So the love doesn't only exist here. Even in the hereafter, the love is there. They're in Jannah, they got it made, but still they see their brothers and their sisters in the hellfire, and they are concerned about them because they have love. And finally, the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him. How much love does he have for us? Are you serious? How much time you have? That big day, Yom Al-Qiyamah, there we are, standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the people of the world, they're nervous. Let's go to somebody. Who you go to? Adam. Yeah, Adam, Anta Abu Bashar. You are the father of mankind. You are father. Look at our condition. Adam said, Nafsi, nafsi, nafsi. Idhabu ila ghairi. Idhabu ila Nuh. Myself. Let's do laha. Let's do laha. I can't do it. And they will go. One, Noah, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, until Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. I'm the one. He's concerned about us, his love for us. In the condition that we're in, it's love. So if you want to measure your weight, a scale, the blood pressure, the sugar. But if you want to measure your faith, one of the instruments is love. Make sure we love one another. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam, bless you, bless this community. I am impressed, and I want to continue to show the country and the world that this is a model community. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.